To the northeast of Bangkok, across the line into Pathum Thani, there's a place that used to matter. A long time ago when this was a very different country. Today, Klong Sipsong, or Canal Number 12, might be far from the tourist map, far from the urban sprawl and financial power of the capital, but what it does have is one coffee shop, the oldest cafe in mainland Southeast Asia. It's called Tia Yong Lii, and it's been open for 119 years and hasn't changed a thing. From the coffee to the techniques to the lanterns hanging from the ceiling. But finding it, well, that means navigating what's left of the old settlement, diving into a small Thailand village and accepting the hospitality and help of the local community. This is the story of a day trip to the most fascinating cafe anywhere we've ever been before. It's been 2 years since we started OTR, and as the channel's gotten bigger, we've taken on bigger stories, going from just trying to wrap our heads around our new home country to talking about rice and potatoes and deep mysteries and stuff like that. But sometimes it's nice to remember that what started all of this was how much fun it was to just get on the road and start driving. To call a friend, in this case Bangkok YouTube legend Gary Butler, the roaming cook, and do some roaming. Now, going into the unknown is a lot of fun off the air, but on camera, it's a risk. We have no idea what we might find or what's in store at a place that no one we know has ever been. But at least I'm not in this alone. So sometimes when we have a really cool idea, something that's just like, it's gonna be an awesome shoot, I'll invite Gary Butler, the roaming cook, to come along. Today is the exact opposite. I invited Gary because this might be a bust. I have no idea what we're getting ourselves into. There's one coffee shop I've had in forever.
I hear it's the oldest coffee shop in Asia.
It's up there. It's 118 years old. Everything else at that market apparently has been torn down. It's just like you look at a map of Bangkok and this is just this big blank spot in the far northeast.
Yeah.
So I figured if the shoot ends up a bust, at least with you along, we'll find a bite to eat, have a catch up, and make something out of it. If I'm by myself, I'm just gonna be there having a coffee and going home.
Sounds good. I thought you just invited me because you wanted a lift.
We don't know much about where we're going, but the broad strokes go like this. At the end of the 1880s, as Bangkok was beginning to grow and modernize, the city needed food. So King Rama V commissioned 3 canals to be dug leading into the northeastern farmland, connecting the Chao Phraya to the Bang Pakong River. The 3 canals would be linked by a series of smaller waterways, with the intersections becoming kind of boomtowns, clusters of local farmers, migrants, and fortune seekers building markets to sell rice to buyers from the big city. These markets would prove fantastically important to the kingdom, but their heyday wouldn't last for long. By the 1950s, trade no longer confined to the water and replaced by highways, international shipping, and a modern economy. Some of the old boomtowns would become absorbed into the capital, places like Rangsit to the north and Lat Krabang, the home of Suvarnabhumi Airport. But far more would just fade into obscurity. That would include Klong Number 12, at one point among the most important rice markets in all of Thailand, but forgotten for so long it's barely even a footnote in history. We're not the only ones who've never explored the far east of Pathum Thani. It's an area as anonymous as any part of a giant metropolis could be. There are no theme parks or famous temples or tourist attractions, no highway for the last half of our 50-kilometer-long drive, and nothing except what might be a really old cafe, and the knowledge that it's been way too long since we've just shown up somewhere and figured it out. All right, so we've just arrived at the Klong 12 market. This is not the historic part of it. This is just like the community, local little market. So basically, like if you look at a map of Bangkok, you know, we were talking about this in the car, but like all around the city, you know, an hour away, you're still kind of in the urban area, and there's stuff to see and do. So you have, you know, like every direction. Go north, there's Ayutthaya. Go west, you have Kanchanaburi. Southwest, you're on the way to Hua Hin. Go east, you have the airport, and and the road to Pattaya. Northeast, the old rice farming country, is like the big hole on the map. I have one place pinned for later. We have a coffee shop pinned for later, but it's like 8:45 in the morning. And I think the first priority is let's just get breakfast. Let's just see what we can find. You go that way, I'll go this way. Inside here?
Old market,
100-year-old market.
ใช่
Anything that you recommend for best food here? Your favorite food?
food มี coffee original coffee
Original นะใช่
เตียย่งหลี
Yeah, Tia Yong Lii. But we also have to eat something. So what do you like to eat here?
อ๋อ
อยากกิน
my shop eat homestay in my shop
จริงเหรอ
มี kebab
What's your shop?
chicken kebab
Where's your shop?
you serve homestay Euro B12
จะกินคับบับ
They don't see a lot of tourists at Klong 12 Market, at least the new one that exists today. This is not the place with all the history, that's somewhere behind here. But the name now belongs to where we are, which was built in 1988 to serve a more updated function. At the very least, coming here to start the day means we could get a sense of the local food beyond the coffee and the chicken kebabs. So we figured since nobody else seemed in a rush, we wouldn't be either, and we could take some time to check it out. A Thai market anywhere, but especially in the countryside, is a great solution to the hunger that comes from a morning road trip. We bought a few snacks, skewing heavy towards comfort food, sweet buttered toast and random Thai desserts and stuff like that. And this was gonna be our breakfast and our full experience of the new Klong 12 market, but this is why you invite the roaming cook on a road trip. Off in the distance, Gary noticed one place with a steady flow of local customers, a place that happened to specialize in the one iconic Thai dish which takes its roots right here. And so, we'd start our day with a bowl of boat noodles. Alright, now if you're watching this abroad, you might not know much about boat noodles. But here in Thailand, this is more popular than pad Thai. 60-cent bowls of aromatic broth and thick-cut rice noodles. It's also pretty much the only thing that puts this old rice-growing region on the modern map. Now, the very short version of the story goes back again to Rama V's canals, and specifically, the three dug from west to east. They were named Sai Bon in the north, Sai Lang in the south, that's the one a few steps away from this market, and in between it was Klong Rangsit. That was where in the early days of these boomtowns a new dish would catch on, sold in small portions so it could be eaten on the water without spilling. It would be credited to the Chinese workers who made up much of the rice trade, a simple bowl of noodles that would become so popular that vendors would compete to make the best version, to stand out among all the other sellers. They'd add vegetables like water morning glory, spices and aromatics, and even blood as a thickener, and by the 1910s, boat noodles were known throughout the capital. Today, they're a major part of Thai cuisine, sold across the country and catching on abroad, and they are by far the most visible legacy of the old rice canals.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, man.
กับก๋วยเตี๋ยวเลย
ขอบคุณนะครับ
So boat noodles in this. Are you giving that to me? It's like.
I was, yeah, it's like a flower.
Thank you.
It looks like she's just picked these.
Yeah.
Go on.
I don't know. For me, there's something about coming up to this area.
And having boat noodles.
You have to have boat noodles. It's like this is the canal where they were invented. We have all of our snacks we grabbed at the market. What do we have? So we have she makes her own mukrab, so the crispy pork pad kapow. We have her kai
Famous
jiao, the
fluffy
omelet,
omelet.
which everyone's ordering, so we had to try it. Boat noodles, I got beef, you got pork. Let me steal some of this. And then our snacks from the market, which are toast. We have this, which I've never had before, which looks like something made from.
It's a popped up mung dal. It's a mung bean, I'm guessing rice tapioca flour stuffed with coconut.
It's going to be sticky, moderately
Yeah.
sweet. This is the sun-dried pork over sticky rice, which may or may not be sweet and sticky rice. We'll see when we try it. And yeah, man. So Gary, welcome back.
Thank you, mate. It's good to be back.
We were away for a minute.
I was away for a minute. I was in London paying about $30 for a bowl of boat noodles. So this is a welcome return for me, for sure.
I love coming out to the countryside like this, though. Yeah. When we say countryside, this is basically suburban Bangkok, but the vibe is really different. The people are just so excited to see us and talk to us, and you know.
Like I say, the first thing we walk into the market, the first thing people want to do is help you, right? They're like, who are these people? One, they're probably lost. So we'll tell them all about the local markets. So every single person has said to us, oh, there's a coffee shop. No coffee shop we're already going to, but there's a coffee shop over there.
Yeah.
You can get some stir fry here, you can get some noodles over there.
Boat noodles are good.
Very good.
Yeah, the broth is broth. It's all about the broth.
All about the broth. Not too sweet, thankfully. And I like the fact she's made her own roasted chili.
Sitting here having a bowl of boat noodles along a canal where it was first sold is just one more reminder that from a food standpoint, road trips always have the chance to be something special. And even if there wasn't a famous dish on offer, a closer look at our snacks from the market also told us we'd found something interesting, or at least unique. So look what's inside this. It's stuffed with more mung beans and what looks like maybe grated coconut.
Yeah, it's definitely coconut.
And I'm gonna dip it in.
I do remember the name, Khanom Jeen.
Have you had this before?
I don't eat many snacks. This is a first for me. I want to go spoon. Okay.
Is it good?
It's very savory.
Whoa.
It almost tastes like dried corn. Gary does not like it. Darius, nobody's swallowed yet. With breakfast done, it was time to leave the Klong 12 market and try to find the old building that used to have that name, to see how and if the coffee shop that brought us here is still surviving. On the map, it's not that far, but walking there would mean cutting through vacant lots and unmarked alleys, and so, seeing us struggling, a friendly local offered to help. And that's how we ended up climbing into the back seat of a random pickup truck and heading towards, well, I think she said coffee shop.
So where else would you just get chucked in the back of a pickup truck? By a friendly old auntie, friendly young auntie.
I cannot express how close we are to where we're going. It's that building right there.
Yeah.
I don't know how much was lost in the communication of where we're going. We might be going to the coffee shop that we're planning to.
No, she definitely said that one, but I'm guessing you have to drive all the way around to get there, yeah?
We can just walk right in.
Yeah.
It's fine. No, this is better. In the end, we got to see a lot more of the old Klong 12 than we expected, so I guess the ride was a net positive. On the other side of the canal, we found what we were looking for, or at least some signs of life, signs that we were finally on the right track. And then, after a few hundred meters, there was the old market right in front of us, and we could smell the coffee roasting somewhere up ahead. The story of coffee begins in Ethiopia around the year 850 AD. But the cafe, the coffee shop, well, that comes much later, in the 15th century after the drink spread first to Yemen and then across the Muslim world. The first coffee shop opened in what's now Istanbul in the year 1475, a place called Kiva Han, which in a lot of ways would resemble pretty much anything a Seattle hipster might open today. The early Turkish coffee houses were said to be places where people would meet for gossip and conversation, to play games like chess, to learn about goings-on in politics, and even to watch performances, music and storytelling, and hell, for all we know, some primitive form of slam poetry. Anyway, so essential would these cafes become that in 1512 they'd be banned, the government concerned that so much socializing could lead to plots of rebellion. But the ban wouldn't last long, and within a decade, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent would allow his soldiers to set up their own makeshift coffee shops at their encampments while fighting abroad. This was how coffee found its way to Vienna, with the first cafe outside the Ottoman Empire opened in Austria in 1529. It was there that the rest of the ingredients in the modern coffee shop would take form. The Viennese were the first to filter their coffee and serve it with the options of cream and sugar. They'd also incorporate snacks on the menu with pastries and sweets, and even their local creation of croissants, all of which together made this concept irresistible to the European continent. They'd arrive in England in 1652, where they'd be fought over by the main political parties for influence and shelf space for newspapers and reading material. It was also in one of these early British cafes where baristas began placing jars on the counter, asking for small change with a sign reading, "To ensure proper service." In time, this would be abbreviated as tips. Coffee shops were in vogue in Italy by 1654, France by 1672, and Germany a year after that, but the biggest converts were arguably the Dutch, who would bring coffee to their overseas colonies and trading ports, introducing the plant to India, Sri Lanka, and most important for this story, Java in Indonesia. We fast forward 100 years and the British are building fortresses in Southeast Asia, in Penang and Singapore, and with the accessibility of Indonesian coffee, combined with their own cafe traditions, well, the culture would begin to gain a foothold in Southeast Asia. At first, it was only for the colonists, coffee served in high society homes and prepared by Chinese servants. But by the early 1900s, some of those servants began setting up their own cafes, known as kopitiam, along the Malay Peninsula and in Thailand, where many had come for work in the years of Rama V. The entire coffee culture of this region would descend from those old places, the small shops serving traditional drinks and simple snacks that would pave the way not just for modern outlets, but for the farming culture that now makes Southeast Asia a big part of the world's coffee supply chain. Now, there are quite a few of those original venues still surviving, but for almost all of them, well, that's meant adapting, becoming kind of retro tourist destinations, hotspots for Instagram and vacation landmarks, and there's only one that I've ever heard of anywhere that's managed to stay off the grid, completely unchanged for almost 120 years.
This is so interesting. It's like when we were out at the airport, we went to one of those old rice trading markets on the outskirts of Bangkok that has been renovated and turned into kind of a modern floating market. This one has not been renovated. It's kind of, it's mostly closed and abandoned. There are still some houses, but it feels like a warehouse, and it's really crazy to be here where it has not been rebuilt. And you can just imagine what this was like 100 years ago when this was like a massive rice trading hub. This is where people from Bangkok would paddle their boats to buy rice to bring back to the city. Yeah, this was one of the busiest and like economically biggest markets in central Thailand. And it's there. It's like the shell is still here. You know, I don't know. It's pretty interesting to kind of feel like what this must have looked like full of people before it all started falling apart.
Welcome to the old Klong 12 market, the shell of what was once the hub of Thailand's rice trade. Today all but vacant, the 100-old shop fronts reduced to just a few remaining tenants, mostly private homes, a handful of families whose ancestors once did business here still living upstairs, the shop front doors closed for generations. I tried to put my finger on what it was that felt so jarring about coming here, and the best I could come up with is that we're surrounded by history everywhere, but it's usually renovated, preserved as tourist attractions, or at the very least, it exists side by side with the modern world. Here, it's as if everyone just packed up and left, but no one turned out the lights, hanging on to some shred of optimism that in spite of everything, maybe one day, the boats would come back. At the end of the market, signs of life, a handful of open doors and street food. Not much, but a few carts, cooks making snacks or at least conversation. And this small oasis, well, it meant we'd found Tia Yong Lii.
So like you see at the end of the market over here, there's a little bit of life. It's like this is just a little bit of life, a couple of vendors and then this, which I think I've had pinned on my map longer than anywhere that I've never been, right? This has been on my map for a year and a half without having been able to make it, and now we get to try it. The oldest coffee shop in Thailand.
This is a cool spot.
This is really cool, yeah?
Wow.
I'm super pumped about this, honestly. I've been looking forward to coming here for a while, and this is, in terms of atmosphere, it's even cooler than I was hoping.
Tia Yong Lii translates to the Tia family's house of good stories. And their own story begins at this market 2 years after the Wright brothers' first flight. In 1905, China was still led by the Qing dynasty. Thomas Edison registered the patent to a new kind of phonograph, and the world's best-selling car was the Ford Model N, 2 years before the Model T. In the very beginning, right when this canal was finished, the owner sold his specialty from a pushcart, finally saving up enough to take over this shop a few years later. Since then, it's been in the hands of the same family, his granddaughter preparing our coffees with beans roasted on the back porch, just as it was once made for Thailand's rice barons.
You know, when we did our video on Thai coffee, we had some people tell us that, oh, we don't know how it used to be. It was when people used to make it with every ingredient carefully and they would roast their own beans, it was a really special kind of thing, and now it all kind of tastes the same. I think we're experiencing what it should taste like right now. I'm on number 2 and I am buzzing. Let's try the egg. Oh, you're manning up. Give me your impressions. Like, so, you know, you're obviously, I'm somebody who I think is pretty good at sitting there and writing a script and doing a voiceover, but you can actually see things and translate it to camera, which is why your channel's great. Where, like, how would you describe this? So if you were talking to your wife later today and saying where we went.
I would say first of all, it's like, I mean, quite obviously like stepping back in time. As you said, they haven't changed a thing here. This is like everything here, but not just the coffee shop. The whole way down, this whole, what would have been many years ago, the rice trading market, right? And we were saying off camera how you can just imagine coming down here and how busy and how bustling this probably would have been. And then this would have been the focal point, the community spot, right? Where everyone sort of congregates to drink their coffee and stuff like that. And it still has that kind of feel because like, you've got one guy over there reading a paper, you've got another couple of guys that have grabbed some Isan food from the cart over there. And although most things around here look to have closed down, like we asked people, look, is there anywhere to eat around here? Everyone said, oh, there's an Isan restaurant up there. Everyone
told us to come here.
Everyone told us to come here, but everyone who's left here is still congregating here, and this is like the community focal point.
As Gary and I talked, the owner motioned to us that her brother was now awake and would be happy to tell us the story of Tia Yong Lii. His name is Ananchai Tiralapsuan, and for almost all of his 64 years, he's been keeping alive the family tradition, and with it, preserving the center of a community that might have been forgotten but is still here, held together by one cafe.
ผู้ใหญ่บ้านเนี่ยผู้ใหญ่บ้านนะฮะผู้ใหญ่บ้านนะสวัสดีครับผู้ใหญ่บ้านไม่รู้กระท่อนกระแท่นแหละมาจากเมืองจีนแล้วก็มาอยู่ที่นี่ก็เริ่มขายกาแฟมาที่นี่ก็ขายกาแฟเลยขายกาแฟตั้งแต่เริ่มแรกแล้วครับตั้งแต่เริ่มต้นเลยครับ
Ananchai grew up in this market, literally as he lived upstairs and helped out from the time he was old enough to stand. And while today the heyday of Klong 12 exists only in photographs and stories, for a young Ananchai, well, this was still something very exciting.
ตอนที่ตลาดเนี่ยมัน119 ปีมีมา119 ปีแล้วนะตอนเล็กๆเนี่ยตลาดนี้จะเป็นตลาดที่เจริญรุ่งเรืองจะบูมมากๆเลยนะมีทั้งเธียเตอร์โรงหนังร้านขายทองหมอฟันทันตแพทย์อะไรพวกนี้มีครบหมดนะครับจะเป็นตลาดที่ใหญ่ที่สุดเขาจะมีคลอง7มีอยู่3ตลาดมีที่คลอง7และนี้ที่นี่คลอง12แล้วก็ไปทางนู้นก็คลอง16จะมีอยู่3ที่แต่12นี่จะเป็นตรงนี้จะเป็นที่เจริญรุ่งเรืองบูมที่สุดเลยตอนเล็กๆนะค้าขายกันทุกร้านนะครับทุกร้านจะเปิดทำการค้าหมดเลยค้าขายทุกอย่างมีทุกอย่างครับต้องการอะไรก็จะมาที่นี่แล้วทางร้านถ่ายรูปอะไรก็มีสมัยนั่นเมื่อ100 กว่าปีนะถือว่าเป็นตลาดที่เจริญที่สุดเลยการนี้ก็สถานที่นี้ก็จะคงไว้ตั้งแต่รุ่นคุณพ่อ My Father รุ่นคุณพ่อก็เป็นยังไงก็ผมก็อนุรักษ์ไว้เหมือนเดิมรุ่นคุณพ่ออยู่ยังไงก็เหมือนเดิมทุกอย่างนะครับมันก็เลยจะเป็นจุดเด่นกว่าที่อื่นนิดนึง มันก็จะมีของเก่าแก่ตั้งแต่รุ่นคุณพ่อบ้างยังมีหลงเหลืออยู่บ้างครับ ก็พยายามทำตามคุณพ่อที่คุณพ่อทำไว้ครับกาแฟที่นี่ก็จะใช้โรบัสต้าใช้พันธุ์โรบัสต้าแล้วก็แฮนด์เมดคั่วมือครับจะคั่วมือคั่วจนสุกได้ที่จะเป็นแบบคั่วเข้มแบบดาร์กอะไรพวกนี้นะครับคือจะเป็นคั่วเข้มแต่ของเราจะใส่แมคคารีน บัตเตอร์พวกเนยพวกแล้วก็ชูการ์ไว้ชูการ์ลงไปอะไรมิกเนี่ยลงไปคั่วข้างในเลยในกระทะเลยอะครับเม็ดมันก็จะแตกต่างจากที่อื่นเพราะที่อื่นก็จะแยกคั่วระหว่างอย่างเม็ดเขาก็แยกคั่วแล้วก็เขาก็ไปเคี่ยวพวกเนยน้ำตาลเสร็จแล้วก็มาราดแต่ของผมมันจะเข้าในกระทะเลยนะครับ
At 119 years open, it's not certain what the future holds for Tia Yong Lii. They can still get by. I mean, the rent hasn't changed since the market closed. It's still 500 baht per month, about $14. But the younger generations have long since left Klong 12, and one day the wrecking ball might come. But for now, well, they'll keep making coffee because this is about a lot more than business.
เรื่องราวในตลาดในชุมชนเนี่ยความน่ารักคือมันยังไงช่วยเหลือกันดูแลกันเหมือนพี่เหมือนน้องนะครับมีอะไรเราก็แบ่งปันอย่างเงี้ยสังเกตเนี่ยเห็นไหมนี่คุณยายก็มาเขาก็จะมีคนช่วยเข็นคือให้ความช่วยเหลือซึ่งกันและกันแบ่งปันกันมีน้ำใจเจอหน้าเด็กเล็กก็จะทักทายผู้ใหญ่คือมีมารยาทมีความอบอุ่นนะครับที่นี่ผมว่าหาความสนิทเนี่ยมันจะมีความสนิทสนมเป็นกันเองรู้จักกันหมดอย่างเงี้ยมันเป็นความน่ารักของที่นี่อย่างหนึ่งอย่างเงี้ยเดี๋ยวเนี่ยเจออย่างพวกท่านเจอเนี่ยเดี๋ยวเขาก็พูดคุยกันได้สบายการต้อนรับการทักทายเขาจะมีอยู่ตลอดที่นี่มันก็เป็นจุดที่น่ารักของชาวตลาดนะครับครับขอบคุณมากครับthank you ใช่ครับ
This is like a fake version of the real coffee shop that's just right there. Yeah, so like if you, this is literally just exactly what we just came from, but made for the movies. I don't know if you can see, it's pretty dark in here, but like this is a prop version of an old style Thai coffee shop for movies.
If an ancient cafe in the middle of an old abandoned market seems hard to believe, then just wait until you cross the canal. The second section of the old Klong 12 market was discovered around 2013 by scouts looking for a place to film a period soap opera. And since then, well, this corner of the old structure has become an in-demand location for Thai TV shows and movies, slowly turned over into a whole bunch of sets, a giant prop room, and basically one massive soundstage. We got to pretend we were actors in a local drama, as today nobody was here filming and the prop guys were more than happy to let us have a look around. And since again everyone here is just so helpful, well, next thing you know, we were being led behind the market and down a path leading to a few old homes and a 19th century Chinese temple. It was easy to get the feeling that if we didn't have anywhere to be, we could have stayed all day. Everyone wanted to show us around, to give our cameras the chance to film their corner of Thailand's capital and share their story with the world. But it was around 11 in the morning and we'd made a commitment, so we would have to turn around and head back towards the market to try some chicken kebabs.
All right, so give me your, everybody does this stuff online these days with like the, putting stuff into tiers, right? Like best whatever characters, put them into tiers. What would be your 90-minute or less road trip from downtown Bangkok? We didn't talk about this off air. This is me catching you off guard. I just had this idea just now. 90 minutes or less. So I guess a
Best
UTA
road trip from Bangkok. Wait.
Yeah.
A random one, but one I like a lot. Mahachai fish market, and the whole town actually, because it's you can get the train from Wong Wien Yai or Tadak Plu. It's 15 baht and it takes about 45 minutes. And as you land, like, do you know Mahachai?
Yeah,
it's like the biggest seafood processing plant.
Exactly.
And town, you go there and there's just fish everywhere, but it's a really nice little town. That's a good one. Like I say, it's only 45 minutes. Samut Songkhram. So
I guess the question becomes like, if it's considered part of the urban sprawl of Bangkok, is it still a road trip? And to me, this is part of the people who live here are counted in the Bangkok population figures. This is Metro Bangkok. But this is a road trip. Like Bang Bon, the Burmese market, is a road trip. That's a great 45-minute drive from downtown. You know, I like Rangsit a lot. That's a cool.
Rangsit,
we had a nice day on the canal.
I've spent a lot of time. I've got to be honest. I've got to go and check it out.
Go boat noodle crawling on the canal. I mean, we're both thinking about things, I think, from a food forward perspective. You know, but what else? What else comes to mind?
Don Wai floating market's a good one. It's quite commercial, but it's not a bad one. Good produce. Oh, I don't know if you could. It's about an hour and a half from Petbury.
Oh, if we're including
that's an hour and a half if you put your foot
tier.
down.
Ratchaburi
is good as well. Ratchaburi is one of my favourites.
Right.
There's an unbelievable Khao Kluk Api restaurant there that's worth driving for.
Ratchaburi, I didn't think about because I don't know that I would choose to do that as a day trip because it's so cool that you want to make a weekend out of it.
Yeah, you would. I've done it plenty of times.
We filmed it as a day trip. We did a show there as a day trip.
That's a great video. But my son's old school was just on the border of Bangkok. So it was only about hour and 10, maybe hour and 20 if you were going fast enough. So easily good enough to do in a day trip. But that's probably my favourite. But obviously you've got all the floating markets west, like Klong Lap Mayom and Taling Chan and stuff. But they're a little bit like, they're good, but they're very touristy. So
I think the lesson for me coming out here isn't that I would consider this to be the best road trip from Bangkok. It's just that just drive. You never know what you're gonna like.
Exactly.
The experience has never been anything but a positive. Me and Dara, this is what we do off the air. We'll just go pick a direction within an hour.
Very rarely film. Oh, actually, then. Oh, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you so you can maybe put it in the links for your viewers. Found this really cool spot. Pathum Thani. It's a really cool spot. So there's a market there. There's a really it's a bit like that actually. The house it's been refurbished, but it must be 100 years old, the house, or 80 years old at least. And they've got a really good couple of restaurants there. I'll take you there, that's a great spot.
A drive in any direction from Bangkok is guaranteed to offer a view into different cultures and cuisines, but really, the highlight is whatever happens when you just go with it. Just since we started this channel, those quick day trips have put us in the cockpit of a 747, brought us to a Burmese migrant football tournament and a Vietnam War-era junkyard, taken us to lunch with a guy from the Grateful Dead and the world's coolest taxi driver, and all of those moments, well, they were unplanned, unexpected, and yet the kind of stuff that makes living abroad worthwhile. I guess the point isn't just to get out and explore. It's that the best times come from just throwing yourself in, because everyone is proud of their own hometowns, happy to show off the stuff that makes it special for them, and it's the hospitality that stands out more than any meal or famous landmark. In this moment, there's nowhere I would rather be than sitting here by the canal, having a rolled-up chicken kebab with Gary, Daria, and a village of random new friends, and it's not even noon. So we'll have time for a little more exploring and one more meal before we head back home. A few minutes into the drive back to Bangkok, we stopped for one last meal at a place that's one of the most popular around the modern version of Klong 12. It serves Khanom Jeen, the ancient specialty of the ethnic Mon, the first rice farmers of this region, but presented in a modern way. All you can eat for around $2 US.
How many years you have this restaurant?
Restaurant 5 years.
5 years. Congratulations. What is your favorite? What do you recommend?
This is okay for ฝรั่ง
No.
By the time we arrived right at noon, almost all of the day's curries were already sold out. So our all-you-can-eat was limited to just a few options. But that's fine for us. I mean, it's been a long day already and we're pretty well stuffed. So a plate of spicy fishball curry for me and some namya for Gary, well, that's $2 well spent.
So this is like, when we come on a road trip, you know, if you watch OTR videos, typically we know what we're doing going in. Typically it's like, we're going to pick this topic and we're going to, but what we do off the air is pick a place that we've never been before and just kind of around and see what we find.
Yeah.
And so this is more of like, we had this goal of seeing this coffee shop. And while we're out here on the way back, we'll stop and we can't let our last meal of the day be a
Kebab.
a chicken kebab, as enjoyable as that was and as lovely as the owner was.
Yeah, you gotta come for some classic. You like? Well, try that.
That is not a not spicy version of the.
Yeah. Try that.
And with that, after boat noodles and a ton of market snacks, after chicken kebabs and Khanom Jeen, after a huge amount of some of the best coffee we've ever tried in a morning full of adventure, from pickup trucks to movie sets, random places and the kindness of strangers, it was time to get back on the road. Just an hour separating us from a mid-afternoon nap, stuffed and caffeine crashing and ready to plan the next exploration in some direction we've never been before. Subscribe to the channel for more from OTR. Thank you so much to everyone who supports us on Patreon. It really helps to keep us going. Find links below to our Patreon and social media, and we'll see you soon.
All right, so what I want to do while we're in here, we're getting this tour of the movie sets, is like this little living room setup, which is TV. I'm going to guess this is probably supposed to be from like mid 1960s, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's stage. Boris, you've worked in films before. Set the shot up as you want. Me and Gary are going to have a staged conversation. I'm going to unmute your microphone. Okay.
All right.
So now we're on set. What would we be talking about if this was Thailand 1960? Vietnam War.
Vietnam War.
Oh man, Vietnam War.
I know.
Should we let
right?
Should we let the Americans build their military bases?
I think so. At least we'd get some airports for the future.
This is so dumb. Daria, can you act any better than I can?
What should I do?
I don't know.
Russians are coming.
No, the Russians are coming.
The
commies are on the way.
No, that's going to end badly for everybody.
They're so much closer than you think.
Yeah.